right. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do section 4-5, but we've done the first part already. So we're going to move right on down to part 2. All right. Part 1, if you remember, we got y by itself, so it's y equals mx plus b. We pulled out our m and we pulled out our b's. And that essentially was your homework. And hopefully you did it, and hopefully you checked your answers. Okay? Let's look at day 2. And I got steps for you. So follow these steps when you do your assignment. Notice it says to graph the equation using slope-intercept form. So I'm not using a table. Don't do a table. Do not do intercepts. Do not plug in 0. Okay? It's a different way to graph. So if I took that equation, I technically could make a table and graph it. I could put in 0 for x, solve for y, put in 0 for y, solve for x. I could do that. But they're telling me slope-intercept form. So I'm giving you 3 different ways to graph this. In other words, if I have a sink that's broken, I can use 3 different wrenches or 3 different screwdrivers to fix that sink. Some people grab their monkey wrench because that's their best wrench, it's their favorite wrench. Another person might grab like a pliers because that's what works for them. Okay, so I'm giving you 3 different tools to do the same job is what I'm doing. And then you kind of get to choose. Or if you're on a test, what's nice is if you solve it one way, you can check it using the other. Okay, and that's why we're doing it. So let's take a look at this first one. First of all, it says to write it in slope-intercept form. And remember that is y equals mx plus b. All right, so is this one in slope-intercept form? It is not. So I'm going to go 4x plus y equals 2. What do I do to get it in that form? Yes?
You just have to put the 4x on the other side of the equal sign.
Correct. So I'm going to subtract 4x from each side. And I get y equals, and what comes first? Yes. Excellent. Negative 4x plus 2. So now I got it in slope-intercept form. And remember, it's the y and then the equals. The y must be by itself. I don't want a negative in front of it. I don't want a number in front of it. It's just y. And then equals, and then I got my x. Remember, x wants to be there first before that final number. Right? Next step, identify the slope and the y-intercept. So what is my m? Yes? It's negative 4. It's the number in front of the x. So it's right there. And what's my b? It is positive 2. So when you do this, you're going to put the equation in slope-intercept form. You're going to say m equals, and you're going to say b equals. And that's how you're going to show your work. Okay? All right, and then the next step is to plot the y-intercept. So my y-intercept is 2, yes? Let's go to my graph, and I'm going to show you how this works. The y-intercept, the y is 2. So I'm going to find 2 on my y, and I'm going to put it right there. See that? So it's always on my y-axis, always. And that's my starting point. I always start with that. And then I go back to my list, and it says to use the slope and plot 2 more points and draw a line through those points. Now let's talk a little bit about our slope. Our slope in this equation is negative 4, yes? Let's look at this a little bit closer. Okay, remember that slope is rise over run. And so if I'm given negative 4, that's negative 4 over 1. So I've got a whole number, or I should say an integer. Okay, I'm going to make the negative in the numerator, and then I'm just going to put it over 1. Now, just a little hint. If my numerator is negative, I move down. If my numerator is positive, I'm going to move up. So that's for my numerator. My denominator, that's my bottom number, I usually like that positive. So if my number is negative, I'm going to make the numerator negative. And I'll give you an example of that in just a minute. And then I always move right. Okay? So before we go on, let's talk a little bit about the slope. If m is 2, I'm going to make it 2 over 1, which means I'm going to move up 2 and right 1. Those are going to be my directions. If my m is negative is out front, and I go 3 over 2. Sometimes that happens. This is what you're going to do with it. I'm going to make my numerator negative, and I'm going to leave my denominator as a positive. So because my numerator is negative, I'm going to move down 3, and I'm going to move right 2. If my slope is negative 4 over negative 3, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so I'm going to get 4/3. And do I make that 1 1/3? No, because it's slope. Do I take it as 1.3 repeating? No, because it's slope. You never have a mixed number, and you never have a decimal for slope. Okay, so then what I do is, because my numerator is positive, I'm going to move up 4, and I'm going to move right 3. It's just the easiest thing to do. You either move up or down, and then you always move to the right. Okay, because kids get confused on that. So let's go back to our original problem and graph this. So we said that our slope was negative 4 over 1, correct? So I'm going to go back, okay, and I'm going to take my starting point, and I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to go over 1, and I'm going to put a dot. And then from then, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to put a dot. So the blue dot is my y-intercept. It's negative 4, so I'm going down 4, right 1, down 4, right 1. Now, I could go up 4, left 1. I could do that. But kids really get confused as, do I go up or down, or do I go left and right? So if you can do your first point at least the way I mention it, then at least you have the right way that it's going. Yes, ma'am?
So you don't start from the origin. You start from the dot on the line.
Correct. You do not start from the origin. You start from your dot, your y-intercept. Well, yeah, you're going to connect them because we don't have points for the domain. So you're going to take it and you're going to connect it. And you put arrows on either end. Don't forget your arrows. Okay. Because the domain wasn't, they didn't tell you the domain needed to be affected somehow. We okay? All right. Let's keep going. Let's talk a little bit about parallel lines. What do we know about them? Yes?
They're across from each other.
They're across from each other, meaning they're
Right next to each other.
they're next to each other, but they never cross. Okay, so they're next to each other, but never cross or intersect, correct? Yep, that's one thing we know about it. What else do we know about it? We've been talking about slope. What do you think about the slope of two parallel lines? They're what? They do have slope. Well, unless they're vertical lines. Let's talk about it for a minute. If I have two vertical lines, are they parallel? What would be the slope of the first vertical line? Remember yesterday we have vertical lines. Is it 0? Is it
Undefined.
Undefined. What about the other vertical line? Undefined. Okay, now let's talk about horizontal lines for a minute.
Zero.
Their slopes are 0. Both of them?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do I know about their slopes? The same. So whether they're horizontal lines or vertical lines or other types of lines, those slopes are always going to be the same. So they're going to have the same slope. And that's huge. You're going to use this in geometry next year. This is going to be one of the things that you're going to go, oh, that's right. I remember Mrs. Medvick talking about this. Okay? So what we're going to do here is it says determine which lines are parallel. So I got to take and find the slopes on these. So I'm going to take the first one. And remember, I'm going to label this point 1, point 2, x1, y1, x2, y2. And we've done this before. This should be review to us. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to write my formula. M equals what?
y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1.
Ah, nice job. She has her Wheaties again today. Okay, and then go ahead and use your formula. Now notice that I had -3 over -4, and then remember, notice how I reduced it. You see it as 3/4. Should I write it as 0.75? Why not? Why shouldn't I do that? Correct. It's slope. I don't want a decimal. Very nice. Okay, make sure that you reduce it though to 3/4. Okay, let's go on to the next one. I'll write the formula again.
y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1.
Nice. Okay, follow your formula. Okay, and then you notice that we reduced it. So, taking a look at these two, are they parallel? Do I have to graph them to prove that I don't have to graph anything? That's the glory of algebra. I don't have to graph it. I don't have to do all this work. I can use my tools and I can make the job easy. I don't have to call a plumber. I can take care of this myself. I can grab my favorite tool and I can go and I can fix my sink, right? Yeah, so are they parallel? No, because what's not equal? That's correct. The slopes are not equal. They are not the same. One's 3/4 and one's 5/7. All right, let's go to the next one. You know it's going to be equal to something. We just got to figure that out. Okay, so I've got point 1, point 2. Okay, y2 is 0 minus over minus numerator over, which is, okay? So now, do I have parallel lines? Which ones? Okay, so A and C, and I know that because they're the same. So you're going to write line A is parallel, that's what the symbol means. Line C, same. Done. Yep.
What does the I mean?
This just like,
Oh,
yeah. And this parallel sign is good to know because you're going to see it next year. So I'm exposing you to something that you're going to see next year and you're going to learn about next year. Questions? Something you didn't understand? All right, that's it for today, and we'll go ahead and start looking into your assignment.